President Buhari implores central bank governor to sustain efforts at stabilizing the foreign exchange market.
Japanese investors get assurance of better deal doing business with Nigeria.
Inspector General of Police seeks international cooperation to checkmate the activities of drug traffickers.
On Good Morning Nigeria today, we focus on timeliness in budgeting process and INEC continuous voter registration exercise.
Well, a household would usually discuss its projected income, expenses and savings for a given period. Now, sometimes in the event, households do lack money, Kingsley, of course, to address whatever they needed. They could also decide to reduce their expenses or consider other means of earning extra income, or even, at worst, borrow.
That's right, Claire, but similar to a household, the governments also calculate their income and expenditure in a given fiscal year and in the medium term as well. Now, government has to also remember that it pulls together revenue for its citizens. Therefore, it has to discuss how its decisions could grow the economy and improve the welfare of the citizens.
Now, precisely, a team of experts in the above analogy would also be expected to submit in their work on the budget process that the federal budget is a document from the government that sums up its revenue and expenditure for a particular fiscal year, now, which normally should run from January 1 to December 31st.
Now, the budget preparation process involves the executive and the legislature. Now, it commences with the developmental plan of the president, which articulates the government's vision and plans for the economy to the Federal Ministry of Finance and then the Budget Office. Now, of course, we have the Ministry of Budget and National Planning. In order that the various issues be captured in the budget. Now, the budget will also provide details of government agenda on how to boost growth, through infrastructure, upgrade, poverty reduction, among others.
Indeed, the federal budget acts as a policy tool which aims to achieve the short, medium, and also long-term development goals. Now, through, of course, the medium-term fiscal framework, MTFF, the budget shows how government projects its revenue, expenditure, borrowing, and fiscal balance for the next 3 years. However, since Nigeria's return to democracy in 1999, successive presidents have failed to meet the best practice of presenting the budget to the National Assembly 2 to 4 months before the commencement of the next fiscal year. Now, the legislature on their own path have taken longer periods to appropriate the budget.
Now, of course, another issue of interest is the current continuous voter registration exercise taking place, throughout the country. And of course, it's under the auspices of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC.
Indeed, the exercise affords those who have attained 18 years or may not have registered before an opportunity to register and participate in future elections in the country.
Now, how has the nation, back again to the question of budgeting, fared in its budget process and the timeliness that ordinarily should attend to the budget? And also, how are Nigerians embracing the INEC continuous voter registration exercise? Answers to these and other questions, of course, will be provided by our guests in the course of the program. But the immediate prompt, of course, for discussing the timeliness of budget has to do with the fact that the 2016 Federal Appropriation Act comes to a close today.
Is it today?
That's right.
Today, all right.
At the end of today, that's
the end
May
of today,
5th, yes.
May 5th. That's right, Kingsley. And of course, we're also, as he said, looking into the continuous voters register. My name is Claire Delabo Abdurazak. Once again, we'd like to appreciate your presence, always on this station, watching Good Morning Nigeria. It's the last for this week, Friday. Of course, it's time now to go over to our news today, but not before, of course, we'll also remind you that our usuals, newspaper review, business, sports, foreign, arts and entertainment would also be, of course, on our program this morning. Right now, Olajide Bello is right here with us, and he'll be giving us details of the trending news for today. Good morning.
Good morning, Claire and Kingsley, and welcome to the news. President Muhammadu Buhari has tasked the Central Bank of Nigeria to sustain efforts at not only stabilizing the foreign exchange market and the economy, but also insulating them for future external and domestic shocks. This was when he granted orders to the governor of the nation's apex bank, Godwin Emefiele.
I was very delighted to hear that the market is stabilizing at the level that it is right now, between 380 and 385. And he is encouraging us to continue to do the good job. Given what we have right now, the fact that revenues are looking good, the state of the economy is good. We've seen production of crude has increased, so to that extent, the fact that we've seen also crude prices oscillating between 50 to 55 to 56, it has helped our revenue position and has also provided some ammunition for central bank to defend the currency.
Meanwhile, the Buhari Media Support Group, BMSG, has dismissed complaints about the ill health of President Muhammadu Buhari by some interest groups and individuals as an excuse not to acknowledge the monumental achievements of his administration. The group, in a statement by its supporting coordinator, Austin Brymer, and its secretary, Chief Cassidy Madueke, describes the uproar about the president's health as mischievous, diversionary, and purely laced with political motives. BMSG said Nigerians feel and are still feeling the presence of the federal government administration through programs and projects being implemented all over the country, as people as well as oriented policies being churned out. It's observed that the war against Boko Haram terrorism, militancy, and the sabotage of the economy in the Niger Delta have recorded huge success. BMSG says, contrary to the expectations of the detractors, the Buhari administration has continued to record significant progress in the three cardinal areas of economy, security, and fight against corruption, adding that no amount of campaign of calumny will deter the administration from serving Nigerians selflessly. The statement confirms that the true condition of the president, as disclosed by the officials of the presidency, is that he is in recovery mode and gaining energy from treatment he received in the UK, and that the president continues in his role as president and commander-in-chief of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. BMSG maintained that the complaints are politically motivated and advised Nigerians not to be deceived by the diversionary tactics of those who looted the nation's treasury and impoverished Nigerians. Vice President Yemi Osinbajo has reaffirmed government's commitment to encourage the growth of micro, small and medium enterprises by easing the process of registration of business. The Vice President said this at the opening of 2017 Business Enterprises Clinic in Jos.
In the what we call PEBEC for short, is that we try to look at the various areas that make it particularly difficult to do business in Nigeria. We'll come to the last, which is MSMEs. In some cases, for those who want to register companies, it's very difficult to register a company. It might take a long time. But now we have improved that considerably.
Beyond poverty alleviation is livelihood sustainability. Hence, the various programs that the government has initiated in the agricultural sector and through the micro, small and medium enterprises development agency to enhance the economic well-being of Nigerians.
The Nigerian government has assured the people of Japan it is open to do business with them as both nations seek to boost trade ties and improve relationship. Leah Katumba Batunde reports that the mission seeks to solidify a $30 billion investment discussed at the 6th Tokyo International Conference on Africa Development TICAD recently held in Kenya.
So as represented by the diversity of the members of the mission, we have a diverse interest.
What you have to do is to make it easier for people to do business, register businesses, pay their taxes, get construction permits, get access to property and the like.
We are focused on increasing our food security by investing in agriculture, improving energy sufficiency by investing in power and petroleum, improving transportation and other infrastructure, and driving industrialization.
Moving on to the legislature now, the Senate has called on the Ministry of Transportation to conduct a survey into the stretched River Niger with a view to putting safe navigational aid in place. The resolution is contained in a motion moved by Senator Bala Ibn Allah, representing Kebbi South.
As at today, despite these years and the sacrifice that this community has done, it is without good drinking water and without electricity.
Towards preserving Nigeria's identity and national heritage, the House of Representatives has passed for second reading a bill for an act to amend the National Flag and Coat of Arms Act 2004 with a view to regulating its use and display. These and other developments dominated Thursday's plenary.
Any person who uses the national coat of arms and inserts them into national flag, thereby creating an illegal form of our national flag, shall be guilty of an offense against this act.
A little bit worrisome when you see that even our children no longer know the shade of the color of green that is the Nigerian flag.
Some people may say the national flag implies green, white, green. Some will say it's green, white, green with coat of arms imposed on it, superimposed on it.
An 8-man task force on ECOWAS liberalization scheme has arrived in Nigeria for a proper evaluation of free movement and trade in the sub-Saharan region. The delegation, led by former President of the Republic of Niger, Lieutenant General Salou Djibo, paid a courtesy visit and the Minister of State Foreign Affairs in Abuja.
Whatever our findings are, we're going to compute them together and we'll get back to you at the end of our mission, where in normal process, what we do in other countries is that we come back and then present our findings to you first. And thereafter, we'll meet with the presidency alongside you, and an aid memo will be prepared.
It's become very worrisome for anybody wanting to export or import or do any kind of business within the ECOWAS countries to begin to do anything, because at the end of the day, it is very difficult. There's too much agencies, government agencies involved in actually trying to do business within the ECOWAS sub-region.
Moving on to the judiciary now, the Supreme Court has adjourned hearing in the PDP leadership crisis case to 25th of May, when it will hear argument on 4 motions before it. This is the outcome of Thursday's hearing, where counsel to Alimadu Sheriff sought to shoot down the appeal before the court.
The McAfee faction is an unknown body for purposes of the appeal that was filed in this case. If the McAfee faction feels strongly about appealing, they can take out appeal in their name.
Because the motion was already overtaken by events. The respondents had filed their own brief. So there was no need for us to be asking for the appeal to be heard on our brief.
Defeating drug traffickers requires the cooperation of international communities, since the effects of illicit drugs cut across. This was the poster at the workshop on use of Interpol policing capabilities in cocaine trafficking, organized for law enforcement agencies in Abuja. Inspector General of Police Ibrahim Idris, with a message, challenged all law enforcement agencies to collaborate to end organized drug crimes in the country.
The Nigerian Police Force will continue to collaborate with the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency and other national agencies in its quest to ensure a crime-free border crossing using the Interpol tools in the fight against illicit drug trafficking and organized crime.
Between 2006 and 2015, the agency has made a seizure of about 17,612.94 kilograms of cocaine.
So this is an opportunity for cross-fertilization of ideas, because we need the improved interagency relationship.
3 female teenage suicide bombers attempted to attack a military outpost popularly known as Guantanamo along Mona Garage C Company 195 Battalion. They were sighted trying to gain access to the premises and were shot by the security, leading to the detonation of their concealed explosives, which killed all the 3 of them and injured 1 of the security personnel. The cops were evacuated to Borno State Specialist Hospital by NEMA and BOSEM emergency response teams. The Nigerian Television Authority says it will not relent in ensuring adequate publicity of military activities in and around the country. The Director General Yakubu Ibn Mohammed said these when he received the new spokesperson of the Nigerian Air Force, Air Commodore Olatokunbo Adesanya.
NTA will go all the way, as far as our limited resources can carry us, to assist the Nigerian Air Force in not only repositioning itself, but in making sure that the war against insurgency, is finally contained.
Patriotism remains key in the whole of the practice. We believe that when we work together, share information together, at the end of the day, Nigeria will be the better for it.
Well, that's the news for now. Good morning, Nigeria continues with Claire and Kingsley after this break.
You hear a bomb explosion or gunshots of an active shooter. That might be a terror attack. At such times, always remember 3 action words: run, hide, report. Don't try to run towards the terror scene to save the situation, because there might be a second bomb blast or another attack. Run far away and take cover. Make sure you are safe first. Yes, it is in our nature to sympathize over the hurt, but remember, only trained personnel can help in such situations. When in a secured environment, promptly call relevant authorities and help will come. For anonymous reporting, call 09630-3250-5 or 0813-2222-106. If you see something, say something. Nigeria unite against terrorism. This message is brought to you by the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
Savlon leaves you free to live more and do more. And it's formulated by Johnson & Johnson to kill over 99.9% of germs on skin.
So what's up, sweetheart? You really look like you're up to something.
I have a secret.
Okay.
I'll be going to Europe next week.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Like you have your visa, your passport, your plane ticket?
No, not that way. Some men are helping us. We pay them, they take us through the desert, and then we cross the sea into Europe.
The desert, the sea. Isn't that the route where many have died?
Yes, it is indeed a very dangerous journey. In 2016 alone, 4,900 people died while crossing the Mediterranean Sea to enter Europe. Many were Nigerians. For the very few who survived the journey, they are forced into prostitution or other crimes just to survive. Eventually, they will be arrested and deported to Nigeria. Don't be a victim. Don't go this way.
This is a public service announcement brought to you by NTA.
All right, welcome back to the program. It's Good Morning Nigeria, broadcast on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority, Africa's largest TV network. Let's talk business now. And the Central Bank of Nigeria directs banks and financial institutions to diversify portfolios and fund to boost medium, small enterprises operations in the country. We have details of these on Business News with Joy Uzo.
Welcome to Business News. The Central Bank of Nigeria has advised commercial banks and other financial institutions to diversify their portfolios and provide more funding for the micro, small and medium enterprises in order to enhance economic growth. Governor of the Central Bank, Mr. Godwin Emefiele, who stated this at an event in Lagos, stressed that access to finance was essential for private sector growth and development. Emefiele said the CBN collaborated with the World Bank and International Finance Corporation Group to establish the National Collateral Registry as part of the regulator's efforts to address the financing gap. The registry said would improve access to finance for the MSMEs while maintaining a strong, prudent lending policy and promote sound financial system. Meanwhile, an indigenous businessman and financial expert, Shitu Muhammad, has applauded the Central Bank of Nigeria for sanctioning some commercial banks over irregularities in the alleged utilization of forex meant for small and medium enterprises, SMEs, in the foreign exchange market. Mr. Shitu said the development is a right step in bringing sanity to the impunity by which banks deprive SMEs the benefit of forex despite the weekly influx of dollars to the forex window by the Apex Bank. Sharing his personal experience, he said he had suffered the deprivation repeatedly in some of the banks where he had applied for forex, resulting in painful setbacks for his business.
It's a welcome development. We commend the CBN for this action, and then we also want to urge the banks to also sit up, because this economy, if it collapses, they are also going to lose. If the industries are robust, they will also make more profit.
The financial analyst and investor hopes that the CBN sanction will serve as effective deterrent to discourage other banks from indulging in the sharp practice. Now, a quick check at latest closing figures of trades on the floor of the Nigerian Stock Exchange. That does it on Business News. Thanks for watching.
All right. Thank you very much there, Uzo, for the business package. Next for us, we'll take a look at the headlines in some of today's newspapers.
Bayo Atobe is right here with us to look at the stories trending in today's newspapers. Bayo, it's a pleasure to have you once again.
Thank you, Claire. Good morning. Good morning, Kinsley. Good morning, Nigeria.
All right, Bayo, a pleasure to have you join us. Let's begin by taking a look at the front page of the Daily Trust newspaper. Daily Trust newspaper has as its lead story, National Assembly fails to pass 2017 budget. National Assembly fails to pass 2017 budget. That is also the lead story that we have on the front page of Blueprint. Blueprint says, uncertainty as Senate fails to pass 2017 budget. Details of the story can be found on page 6 of the Blueprint, but for the Daily Trust, the story begins on the front page and is jumped to page 5. Now, immediately below the name flag of the Daily Trust, there's another headline there. It says, court jails ex-councillor and one other for IDP food diversion. Court jails ex-councillor and one other for IDP food diversion. Details of that story on page 4. Now, the photograph on the front page of the Daily Trust shows members of Pengassan protesting against the alleged replacement of Nigerian managers with expatriates at ExxonMobil and the Kwa Ibo terminal in Akwa Ibom yesterday. Now, you have a window of other headlines there at the foot of the front page of the Daily Trust. 7 years after, that's the kicker. Family remembers late Yaradua with prayers. That's on page 9 in greater detail. I briefed Buhari on CBN's activities, Emefiele says. Emefiele is CBN governor. And Benue Assembly passes bill against open grazing. Details of that story on page 11.
Okay, Kingsley, let me ride on your last report on the Emefiele, and it's a lead story on the front page of this day. Buhari meets Emefiele, pleased with stability in forex market, and quite a number of riders there. Let me quickly take them. Insist ban on 41 items not lifted, and Stanbic IBTC Keynote Bank readmitted into forex market. Again, banks unable to subscribe fully to CBN's offer. And another story just below that. New book justifies Jonathan's claim Obama administration influenced his defeat. And you'll find a rider to that story. Now, let me quickly take you to another big story on the, I had the nameplate there. Adeosho, that's the Minister of Finance. Federal government will spend on infrastructure to exit recession and expects the economy to grow by 1% this year, and oil prices crash to pre-OPEC deal levels. Those are the headlines on the front page of this day newspaper. Bayo.
Well, of course, the briefing of the Governor of Central Bank, Mr. Godwin Emefiele, is the dominant story on the papers. And the governor was led to the State House Press Gallery by the private liaison officer to the president. The CBN governor said, well, as is normally done, I was here to brief the president about the activities of the bank. This time, it is particularly about the efforts to stabilize the forex exchange market. He said the president was very delighted to hear that the forex market was stabilizing. He indicated that parallel market has stabilized between 380 naira to 385 to the dollar. And he said revenue are looking good, state of the economy is good. We are going to pull out of the problem in very due course. There has been a fatherly advice from the Sultan of Sokoto, Muhammad Saad Abubakar III. He advised that let's guard against repeating the same mistakes that led Nigeria to the Civil War of 1967. He sounded the advice at the Traditional Rulers' Day at Port Harcourt, marking the 50 years anniversary of River State. And the Sultan said, as a nation, we surmounted the wars, a civil war, and seem not to have learned a lesson. Very few nations survive civil wars. He enjoined all to be cautious not to allow anything that will break the peace, unity, and oneness of Nigeria. So that's food for thought.
All right, Bayo, let's return to the Blueprint newspaper. And Blueprint, of course, already taken the lead story, which is on the non-passage of the 2017 appropriation bill by the Senate. Now, just below the photograph, you have the photograph on the front page of the Blueprint has a caption, a Nigeria Customs Service patrol vehicle set ablaze by car dealers at Ungwansarike in Kaduna yesterday. Because the story can be found inside the paper. Now, beware of another civil war, Sultan warns leaders. Bayos already discussed that. Councillor and one other jailed for stealing IDP's food. Again, that story we earlier read from the front page of the Daily Trust. It's also there on the front page of Blueprint. And Nigerian lawmakers most dishonorable in the world. And this is attributed to Akin Ade. Details of that story on page 5. 30 trillion naira fraud. Senate uncovers fresh leakages. And Kogi court sentences 2 to death over cattle rustling. That's on page 15. PDP crisis. Supreme Court fixes May 25th for hearing. Details on page 13. Reps place 100,000 naira fine on national flag abusers. That's on page 13. Reps place 100,000 naira fine on national flag abusers. Details of that story on page 13. Claire.
I'm sure when we read the details, we'll find out what might constitute the abuses.
In fact, Kingsley raised alarm about that, pointing out that even in some public offices, you go there and you find the coat of arms embossed in the middle, the white portion of the flag, and that is not our national flag.
Absolutely.
So There are several abuses. For instance, you have the national flag hoisted in offices, and the routine is that at 6 o'clock, that flag has to come down. Or you find flags left overnight, fluttering in the air, some tattered and torn to pieces. It is a desecration of our national value.
That's right. It was one of the core issues, if you recall, in 1984, war against the discipline, respect for the national flag, respect actually for national symbols, of which the national flag is critical. And the coat of arms, you don't misuse those things, and so on and so forth. So we saw that a moment ago. But my concern is whether you do not have, perhaps, okay, the punishment clause may not have increased what would happen to offenders. But you already have a law dealing with national symbols and the respect for such national symbols. So perhaps, as I said, it's just the punishment clause that makes this different. But the consciousness of having to respect the nation's flag, and then government and private offices, superimposing, as you just said again just now, the coat of arms on the white segment of the green-white grain. It is wrong.
Let's not also forget the shade of the colors anyway.
Yes.
Green-white grain.
The green-white green. Some even use olive green and all that shades of green that are actually not representative.
And some call vertical, horizontal, all sorts. Anyway, let's quickly move on to the New Telegraph. The lead story on the front page, 15,000 doctors dump Nigeria for overseas. And here is the breakdown. 500 take exams to relocate in 2017, that's this year alone, and 700 doctors leave every year, and this is coming from the NMA, and stakeholders lament brain drain. Doctors protest 22 months unpaid salaries. Of course, let's quickly now, there are other trending stories just above that story, and trending at the bottom, Awolowo's associates demand restructuring, warn against disintegration. You can also find that story on page 3. Now, quickly, the story trending just above the nameplate, Nigeria imports 758.44 billion naira fuel, diesel, and kerosene in 3 months. Bayo, a quick rundown.
Yes. My concern is the report about the doctors. 15,000 doctors migrated from Nigeria for greener pastures. And also, the population of doctors in Nigeria, according to NMA, is between 40 and 50,000. 500 doctors have just sat exams seeking for greener pastures. Nigerian doctors are sought after. Even when they go for postgraduate courses abroad, they excel, they do well. This is because of the strong foundation we have in the Nigerian University for our medical schools. The thing to note is that if facilities are here available in Nigeria, our doctors can perform wonders. I remember in 1989, I was part of the NTA coverage crew to Riyadh football, FIFA Under-20. And Saudi Arabia had a huge, massive hospital dedicated for sports, to test sportsmen, their heart, their pulse, to make sure they are fit. Guess what? The professor in charge of that was a Nigerian. And we asked him, Prof, what are you doing here? He said, well, I have the expertise, but the facilities are not available at home. Here it is available. I can excel in my field. If the facilities are at home, what will I be doing here? Right. So those are the challenges we have.
Okay, Bayo, thanks a lot. The brain drain continues. Unfortunately, the floodgates were opened after the introduction of SAP in 1986, as you just indicated. Bayo, that's the much that we can take in our newspaper review segment today. We'd like to thank you for being with us today, and indeed all through the week. We'll see you again on Monday. We hope you enjoy your weekend.
Thank you very much. I'm looking forward to it.
All right, it's Good Morning Nigeria, reaching you live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. We'll take a short break now. When we return, we enter our conversation segment.
A hectic lifestyle or overeating can cause a burning pain in your chest. That's heartburn. Take Gaviscon. One dose relieves in 3 minutes to soothe the pain of heartburn. It goes straight to the source to work for hours, providing long-lasting relief.
That's why I recommend Gaviscon.
I recommend Gaviscon. Gaviscon, fast relief you can actually feel.
If symptoms persist after 3 days, consult your doctor.
Cadbury Bournvita now comes in an attractive new 500-gram refill pack. Simply open and reseal after use to retain the chocolatey and creamy taste. Cadbury Bournvita. Prepare to win.
From the south-south to the northeast, southeast to the northwest, southwest to the north-central, the Future Assured project and its components, Get Involved, is restoring hope to millions of Nigerian women and children.
We are actually doing a lot under Future Assured, the program of Her Excellency Mrs. Aisha Muhammadu Buhari. And I believe what we are doing so far is impacting positively on the lives of women and children in Nigeria, particularly those in the internally displaced camps across the nation.
Get Involved supports the Future Assured initiative. Email programs@futureassured.org.ng. Future Assured, promoting and protecting the lives of Nigerian women and children.
All right, let's quickly get on with our conversation this morning. Once again, if you've just joined in, you're right on time for the meat of this today's edition of the program. Now, it has become a tradition in Nigeria for the annual national budget to be delayed in the process of its passage. Now, as the lifespan of the 2016 budget expires today, Nigerians are expressing great concern over the non-passage of the 2017 appropriation bill. Time for us now to join Timothy Yusuf to give us an insight into the situation to kickstart our discussion.
Budget is a legal financial document that outlines government's economic policies, including capital and recurrent expenditure for the year. These policies in turn shape the socio-economic outlook for the financial year. Analysts believe that with this, investment options and directions are made, but when these expectations are delayed, it creates fiscal uncertainties. In Nigeria, for instance, the national budget is usually passed in the first or second quarter of the fiscal year. For an economy that is driven by government spendings, many Nigerians are of the opinion it slows the economy. They say the delay in the passage of the appropriation bill could have ripple effects on the nation's economic development. They are of the view that most industries are struggling to operate and break even, with the hope that business will improve after budget approval. But why is the Nigerian budget perpetually coming months into the fiscal year? What are the challenges militating against early passage of the appropriation bill, as is the case in the developed democracies? And how can this be reversed going forward? Guests on Good Morning Nigeria will provide answers shortly.
All right, thank you very much there, Timothy Yusuf, for that background report. Now we have two guests with us here in the studios to provide further perspective on the topic that we just introduced. First, at this time, we'd like to welcome Senator Osereme Osumbo. Of course, Senator Osumbo is a former governor of Edo State and also was chairman of the Law Reform Commission. He's also a professor of law. Senator Osumbo, a pleasure to have you join us on the program this morning.
Thank you. It's my pleasure too.
All right, and then we also have with us here in the studios Dr. Bode Ayorinde. Dr. Bode Ayorinde is chairman of the House of Representatives Committee on Recession and deputy chair of his Rules and Business Committee. Of course, he took his PhD in international banking and finance law. Dr. Ayorinde, a pleasure to have you join us on the program.
Thank you very much.
All right. Well, let's begin with the current, namely that's to say that you are in situ, Professor Osumbo, of course, a two-term senator in the National Assembly and chair at some point of the Senate Committee on the Judiciary. The 2016 Appropriation Act came into force on the 6th of May with a one-year lifespan, which ends today. We do not have the 2017 Appropriation Act in place. Why and what happens?
Well, thank you very much. This is quite unfortunate. Ordinarily, we will have expected that the 2017 budget will have been passed into law before the expiration of the 2016. But a lot of issues came up, the latest of which is the seizure of some documents from the chair of the Senate, who told Nigerians that, well, they couldn't work for about 2 weeks, but that is not all the justification for it. But you know that the budget also came to the National Assembly the last working day of 2016. As soon as Mr. President presented the budget, the House proceeded for the Christmas break. And when we resumed, we started work on it. And committees, in fact, we had a recess for 3 weeks so that committees can sit and meet all the MDAs and ministers to defend their budget. This ought not to have been so, assuming that the budget had been presented to us in September or August, 3 months to the end of the year. And we have been able to work, committees have been able to work on it before we proceeded for the Christmas break. To come back around mid-January and start to work and proceed to laying it before for passage takes a lot of work, because first and foremost, there is no directorate of budget in the National Assembly. This is a lacuna that we are trying to, even as we are trying to amend the Constitution now, because not everybody in the House are finance experts, and every committee have to sit and receive presentations from the agencies. So assuming that there is already a directorate of budget and planning in the National Assembly that work to assist members. Most of the SLAs are not even financials, most of them are lawyers. So the process, expertise, everything, delay, these are a lot of factors, and we must try to fix these ones. If there are lacunas in the law, let us amend it. Let us bring all this to the table so that in future budget can be faster. But I want to assure you that sooner than later, the National Assembly will pass do its own aspect of the bill.
Dr. Yarinde, let me ask you specifically, would it be that the subcommittees to the standing, committee on appropriation have not been able to, defend their various budgets? Probably that could be the reason for the delay.
No, the stages are two. When the budget comes in, all the committees that supervise all the agencies will sit with the head of these agencies to defend the budget. What did you do on the last budget approved for you? Performance. Why are you asking for this? So as to know that you did not ask what we approved last year. And if you are asking what we approved last year, why are you asking again?
Yeah, from the House.
Yes.
Have all the subcommittees, finished the defense?
Yes.
You have
long time ago.
Okay,
now it goes to the appropriation committee. Now the appropriation committee dots the I's, cross the T's, then they now compare with the Senate. Definitely there will be differences. Then there will be committees set up to restore the differences and come to the same thing.
These are the processes, and what we want to know is, has this process, has it run its cycle? Has it been completed?
The process has been completed.
Okay, let me pause you and bring in, of course, the former distinguished senator and former governor. The chairman of the appropriation, Senate, Committee on Appropriation, was quoted to have said that he didn't see any reason why there might be a shift or a delay or an extension, because the clause, the appropriation, bill clause was carefully considered. That is, of course, given it extending this time frame. So, what might have happened for this delay?
Well, the honorable member is a sitting member of the National Assembly, so he has provided insight as to what is actually happening on the ground in the National Assembly. But for those of us who were there before, but outside now, what a number of reasons that one has been able to pick up over these past few months. One of them, of course, is the fact that the budget estimate, the appropriation bill, was not presented in time. The other is that the members of the National Assembly were expecting to receive the medium-term expenditure framework, which will assist them in their consideration of the appropriation bill. Then we were also told, and the nation is aware, that some committees or subcommittees of the Committee on Appropriation were not meeting the deadlines given to them for the submission to the main committee. We also know that there were problems of MDAs, some MDAs not responding to requests for information and even getting the appropriate official of government to appear before the subcommittees to defend their budget. So a series of reasons have to be adduced for the delay in the passage of the budget. But the bottom line is that many of these reasons are avoidable. They're avoidable. It is a pity that we are still confronted with these handicaps so many years, 17 years after the return of democracy. It is particularly disturbing considering the fact that in some other countries, the budget for 2018 is already known. In some countries, 2018 budget is already passed, is already known. And here, we are almost at the middle of 2017, and the budget is not yet passed. So it's quite disturbing, and every effort that is made now to ensure that this becomes a thing of the past should be commended and should be encouraged, so that we don't continue to have a repeat of this kind of thing.
All right, so Senator Osumbo, still staying with you. What is the implication now? There was something that was a bit unusual in terms of the legislative clause, in terms of the legislative intervention, inserting in the Appropriation Act for 2016 a clause giving the Act a full-year lifespan, beginning from the date it was accented to by Mr. President. The President, of course, gave his accent on the 6th of May, so the full-year lifespan comes to a close today, being the 5th of May 2017. That's for 2016 appropriation. Now, what is the legal implication, or what are the legal consequences now that the 2016 appropriation has run its full legal course by the close of work today?
Well, first of all, Section 81 of the Constitution envisages that the budget, say in 2016, before the end of 2016, the budget for 2017 has already been passed. That is what the Constitution envisages. But that is not happening. As to why the National Assembly incorporates such a clause in the Appropriation Act is that, first of all, the Appropriation Act is a law. It's like any other law of the National Assembly, and the lawmaker is at liberty to incorporate into the Act whatever clause, whatever thing they so desire. And if it's assented to by Mr. President, it becomes the law, and it's extant and has to be obeyed. The reason, perhaps, for including that would be to avoid crisis or conjecture as to the validity of the Appropriation Act beyond the end of the year. Otherwise, if that was not there, then people would raise the question as to the validity of making expenditure, legality of making expenditure on the basis of the Appropriation Act beyond the 31st of December. So that clause has cured that problem. But Section 82 of the Constitution as well tries to offer some solution or some guidance by providing that if, as we have it now, the Appropriation Act has not been passed, then the President can authorize expenditure based for not a period of not exceeding 6 months at the rate of expenditure in the budget that has elapsed, which means that up till the end of June, Mr. President can authorize expenditure provided that it doesn't exceed the amount that was appropriated for the same period of time in the preceding year. So that still offers us some leeway in order to ensure that the machinery of government is not brought to a standstill. So it's possible still to continue, but time is running out.
I'm wondering, like every other Nigerian there, you two gentlemen understand the intricacies of these things, but I know we would always cite that section of the Constitution which empowers the president to, of course, spend when such situations arise. But what might be the implication on the budgeting process and governance?
Well, it's not a situation to be encouraged. And it's an aberration. It's a kind of stopgap solution to avoid the machinery of government grinding to a halt. Perhaps the Constitution also envisages that there may be, for one reason or the other, a situation where the budget is not passed, does not come into effect on the 1st of January. And therefore, it could be emergency, it could be national crisis, it could be one reason or the other. So it's for good reason that the Constitution envisages an emergency situation as we now have by authorizing the president to authorize the spending of money. I think it's a stopgap solution. It's not the ideal solution. The ideal solution, as the Constitution envisages, is that before the end of 2017, now the budget for 2018 should be ready. And that is what we should work towards as a nation.
All right, Senator Osumbo, thank you very much. Dr. Bode Ayori, of course, listen to the explanation profiled by Senator Osumbo. What's your own comment, particularly with regard to the insertion of the lifespan of the 2016 appropriation up until today? Of course, 2016 ended on the 31st of December last year. So what is the rationale? Is it fit for purpose? As we have seen that even with the extension, here we are, that's the budget has already elapsed and we don't have an appropriation for 2017.
Thank you very much, sir. You look at it from two ways. By the time the budget was signed into law, 2016, May 6, the year remains 6 months, 24 days. And what is projected to be spent over a year could not have adequately been spent under 6 months. So in the wisdom of the National Assembly, it is said that, look at this project, it's coming late. Let us extend its lifespan to give it legality, appropriating or spending money in government up to May 6. However, that's not a justification for the delay. It might have given, well, after all, we are still implementing the former budget. That is my area of concern. What now happens if Section 82, which gives the presidency or the government, the executive arm of government, to spend money using the parameters used or the figures used in the previous budget for 6 months, and between now and June 2030, we have just less than 2 months. If, God forbid bad thing, if we have the challenges we had concerning 2016 budget that went forth, came back to National Assembly, and we were trying to solve the problem of padding, and if this budget cannot be passed between now and the end of June, which is now, there is no protection, there is no legal protection any longer for any expenditure. We just pray that between now or before June 30, the 2017 budget will have been passed.
Do we have an idea as to when the president can issue the authorization for expenditure outside of the validity of the appropriation for a particular year? Is it before the fact of the expenditure, or is it an omnibus authorization, or as in
specific provision? 6 months, and the 6 months runs from January to June. Express provision where the budget had not been approved. Then the previous budget figures. For example, we are talking of 2017 budget now, which is on the drawing board. There is 2016 approved. If this budget, as from tomorrow, the president can still be spending money in government as per figures in 2016, However, it is limited to 6 months.
Sorry, I have another question actually.
Can I provide another insight to your question? Was whether the president can approve it after it has been spent.
Yes.
I don't think so, because the language of the Constitution says that the president shall authorize, not ratify. Okay. If the money has been spent, then he will be ratified. But the money cannot be spent, cannot be released unless and until he authorizes.
All right, but
so it has to be before the
It has to be before the fact. So we should expect, the presidential authorization, omnibus or as the need arises. I mean, what would be the proper thing to do? Can they just give an omnibus authorization to say, well, until I give assent to the Appropriation Act for 2017, spend XYZ? What are we looking at?
Well, I think that even normally, ordinarily, it is the president who authorizes releases of funds to the NTAs, with the exception of those that are released as a first-line charge under the Constitution to the NJC, to INEC, and to the National Assembly. So other than that, it has always been the prerogative of the president. He has a discretion and he has powers in directing or instructing the Minister of Finance to release monies as may be available, because all the money is not available at any single point in time. So it's for the president from time to time to issue the releases of...
Can he do that today? I mean, at the end of today, if the budget...
No, the budget is still running. Oh, okay, whether he can... Yes.
He can do it. He can.
Okay.
Well, this is the other question to ask. Because there were some concerns last year when the National Assembly inserted the clause on the validity of the 2016 appropriation, giving it a lifespan up to the 5th of May, which is today. Now, the clause in the Constitution, which empowers the president to authorize expenditure for a period not more than 6 months, envisages the commencement of the appropriation act from the 1st of January. In the meantime, you already have an appropriation act that straddles the 2 years. 2016 was starting from May 6th, 2016, ending on May 5th, 2016. So, will the validity of the Mr. President's authorization start from the 1st of May, or will it be from, the 5th, 6th of May when it came into force?
No, the Constitution did not say that the budget will pass later than December 31. For all intents and purposes, that provision of the Constitution runs from January 1 to June 30.
Why the clause of May 5th as validity? 1 year?
That one was just to cure the delay in passing the budget. It is not to revise the Constitution. The clause in this act, of course, the Constitution is superior to the law. The clause in this act, the budget as passed is a law, as said by Prof. And the provision in this law is to give validity to the extension of spending in accordance with the law. It's not to revise the Constitution.
Okay. Can I say, in addition to that, that even what was done in the 2016 Appropriation Act by the National Assembly is an improvement on what used to happen in the past, whereby just by agreement between the National Assembly and the executive, they decide that this budget can be operated up to 30th of March.
Without any instruments.
Without any legal backing. That was happening from time to time. So now that there's a legal authorization, not just to March, but to 6th of May, you can see it's an improvement on what used to happen before.
All right, let me... Okay, kiss me. You want
no. I mean, wait, but what Senator Osumbo is talking about the party.
All right, Dr. Yarinde, let me ask this question, and I'm sure everyone wants to know. Because from the time we embarked on our democratic journey till now, I don't think we've had any timely, appropriation budget that has been passed. And of course, that has always been, prompted by, show of force between, the two superpowers, so to speak, the legislature and the executive. Are we seeing that display of show of force in this particular appropriation process?
I can not agree entirely. It's not a show of force. The Constitution has appropriated duties to the three arms of government. They are not being show of force. I want to observe, in the last 2 years in the National Assembly, 1 month to midterm now, there have been neither at any time in National House of Reps where I belong, there have been a show of force. Anything that comes from the executive is treated tempestuously. But can we pass a budget brought into the National Assembly on the last day, the last working day of December? Can it be passed before December 31?
You know, I asked this question because we understand that the budget was also on the order, on the standing order of the National Assembly, the Senate, but was stepped down.
There must have been reasons. It's not because of show of force. Mistakes, there are things to be done, there are still figures to be agreed with the House of Reps. They are not show of force, because I'm not aware of it in the House of Reps wing. Our own concern. For example, the 2018 budget is not yet, they are not, because we are expecting that of 2017, I don't think the budget office has even started anything. And if it comes late again, if it's presented to the National Assembly again on December 24, there's no way it could not snowball to another, however fast we are, we'll be talking about April, March, April next year. And perhaps we invite 2 other eminent Nigerians to come and discuss why it's late again.
Is this a violation? Is this a violation by the legislators?
No, it's not a violation. What I'm
because
saying.
Because you have not followed the act.
Well, I'm just wondering.
Yes.
Sorry,
Okay,
Claire,
yes.
Senator Osumbo. Nigerians have sometimes expressed concern about the attitude to work by our lawmakers, whether at the state level or at the national level. Dr. Ayorinde, honorable member of the House of Reps, is saying, okay, the appropriation bill was laid before the National Assembly on the last legislative day. You'll sit 181 days, in a year. That's supposed to be, all of you do not necessarily meet that. Yeah. There's a great deal of absenteeism. Absolutely. Nigerians worry about the frequent recesses that the lawmakers proceed on. We're told now they were on Easter recess, they were on Christmas recess, and then all kinds of things. We have also had instances where the National Assembly, has had to sit on a Sunday in this same country. But if there was that seriousness with regard to what the appropriation bill represents for this country, could we have had this? Senator Osumbo first, and then we'll come to you.
Well, Kingsley, so many issues have arisen from your question. First, as to the number of days that the National Assembly should sit. That is also provided for in the Constitution, and the minimum number is 141 days.
181.
He said minimum.
Minimum.
Yes, okay. Yes. So if that is the case, then you cannot really, once they attain that minimum, then they have fulfilled the constitutional requirements. Now, as for the perception of members of the public that members of the National Assembly are not doing their work as they should, I should say that this is often a perception from the outside which does not reflect the reality of the diligence, the amount of work that members of the National Assembly put into the performance of their duties. There is a lot of work that goes on in the National Assembly. There may be, as in the larger Nigerian societies, some people take their work more seriously than others. Some treat their responsibilities with levity. We see that everywhere. But the, can I say, indolence or lack of diligence of some members should not be the measure by which the rest of the members of the National Assembly is measured. Then many people also have this perception that the legislature is working at a slower pace than the executive. And maybe some even consider it as a clog in the wheel of progress on the part of the executive. This was particularly so in the early days, 1999, 2000, 2001, the first National Assembly from the onset. That was at the 4th National Assembly, for which I was a member. The perception in the public was very strong that the National Assembly was unduly retarding the progress of the executive. But for me, this was a fallout of the military regime experience. Under the military, people didn't see the role of the executive. There was no separate executive. Now that we had in place a legislative arm that was performing its constitutional duties, people tended to see the legislature as being unduly confrontational and retarding the progress of the executive arm. But that perception is dying down as more and more people come to appreciate the importance of the work of the legislature. And then most importantly of all of what I have said, much more than what I have said, is that the most potent, the most important power of the legislature is the power of appropriation, is the power to decide how money is going to be spent by the executive. Because every other law that the legislature is going to pass will be dependent on what has been provided for in the appropriation. And it is necessary to check the powers of the executive, through the checks and balances that the Constitution guarantees by ensuring that it is the legislature that has a say, the final say, on approving the estimates of the revenue expenditure that is presented in the appropriation bill by the executive. So it requires enlightenment. The public needs to be educated that when the National Assembly or the legislature in the state level is exercising its functions with respect to appropriation, they are performing a very important constitutional duty. And also the executive and other people need to appreciate and understand this, of course, provided that they also act with diligence. There's constantly been a tussle. It happens everywhere between the legislature and the executive. But that is the checks and balances playing out. So the situation in Nigeria is not peculiar, where the legislature tries to stamp its foot and ensure that the executive does not ride roughshod over the legislature.
All right, Kisley, let me ask Dr. Ayorinde. Senator Osumbo has mentioned, several times, I could count about 4 times, the word diligence. And I'm wondering how much of it is present or lacking in the budgeting process, right from the level of the MDAs.
I want to appreciate Prof for enlightening Nigerians as to the responsibilities of the National Assembly. What makes a democracy, indeed, is the National Assembly. Without the National Assembly, then we are back to the executive having it the way it likes without anybody asking. And as I go into answering your question, the sitting at the plenary, which is Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 181 days and 141 minimum, is more than 20% of the sitting at plenary does not consume more than 20% of our responsibilities. We go into committees. In fact, the work of the National Assembly is more in committees that sits Mondays, Fridays, even weekend, or after plenary, more than the one that is exhibited. It's like a wife going out with the husband, and everyone say this is a couple. You know, understand me? What goes behind the show off in town?
In the other room.
In the other rooms and everywhere, is more than the show off in Amco. So what I'm saying is the diligence that you are talking about, we should divide it into 3. 1, from the budget office, where the budget estimates will be submitted. Have there been diligence when you are bringing it too late? 2, the diligence of committees working on the budget, and the diligence on the part of the MDAs and the ministers that would come and defend their budget. If one arm of the 3 is failing, then the budget will not come out in time. As per this year, I want to blame 90% on, first, the delay in presenting the budget and the reluctance of the MDAs in coming to defend the budget estimates.
Well, there's a question I asked, which has to do with part of the question I posed was the frequent recesses that members of the National Assembly proceed on. Christmas, there was one earlier, Easter, and so on and so forth. Look, what is the cause of the current delay? We were told that by April 25th or thereabout or 27th, the appropriation bill was going to be passed. Now they pushed it again to just a couple of days ago. It didn't pass because you were on Easter recess. So that's the question that Nigerians are asking. If you have an urgent piece of work before you, and as Senator Osumbo has said, one of the most important pieces of legislation that you need to pass every year, as a demonstration of your power and authority, why don't you face it rather than proceeding on recess?
Let me clear this before Nigerians. When these recesses are constitutional, ideally, when there is an urgent issue to be addressed by National Assembly, there have been cases that you have to recall members to come and sit, even like as you have mentioned on Sunday. But if a particular piece of assignment is before a committee, it may not delay the entire National Assembly from going on recess. When we were on recess, the appropriation committee and the committee that had to work were not on recess.
So what happened?
They were working. So anything that is important, for any committee that has anything to do, the House can go on recess. It will be announced that we are on recess, but those committees that are working on any important matter will not be on recess.
Okay. Dr. Ayorinde, let's pause for a while because everything now that we've talked about, whether going on recess or not, still boils down to diligence. Because if there's been diligence right from the processes at the different levels, then you wouldn't have to have all these long hours of meeting and
have divided into three. The diligence is not only on the part of the National Assembly, but because the budget itself is not all a product of the National Assembly. The executive have a role to play, the MDAs have a role to play, the National Assembly has a role to play.
They have played their part, but let's pause you for a while now and get the views of Nigerians on the timeliness of the federal budgeting process.
This is the only country in the surface of this universe where we've been into a problem of budget inconsistencies. It's not good for our democracy. Something is terribly wrong. I don't know how that problem can be solved, but of course, without a budget, no country can function because every country functions by the provisions made in the budget. How do you pay workers? How do you pay ministries? They defended the budget, they can't function.
Nothing can move if the budget has not been passed. Contract will be released, money will be flowing. But if the budget is not passed, definitely everything will stand still.
The implication of the late budget is much because when you talk of budget is something that has to do with a specific time. And if it did not follow the timing, it is wrong. Now, the delay in the budget, you cannot blame the executive because the executive have already sent the proposed budget to the National Assembly.
Delaying this budget is going to make life so hard to Nigerians if they will not do anything concerning the budget. So people will face difficulty. It will warrant to many things.
At least late payment of salary, number one, is going to affect other things that the establishment and the ministries want to carry out. It will delay it.
The late budget, I should say, have many implications. One, to the economic growth in its entirety, and then this trickles down to the individual growth or developmental platforms.
Any country that is facing delayed budget will face a kind of backwardness. When we talk about almost virtually every sector will be affected.
All right, there you have a cross-section of Nigerians speaking on the implication of the delay in the passage of the appropriation bill into law for 2017. We also have reactions already from our viewers who have used the Twitter handle. You see it there on the lower part of your screen, the left side at NTA GML. Let's take some of those tweets right away.
All right, let's begin with Deca Behavior and Twitter. The real question is, what is causing the delay?
And Dele Jack Solomon tweets, lack of accountability and transparency red tape, and prolonged years of military rule are responsible for late submission of budget proposals.
And Sani Michael Omakoji tweets, until we begin to respect time, our problems will continue to overwhelm and becloud us.
All right, and then you have another one from Dele Jack Solomon. It says, a bane that there is that there are no well-articulated modalities to enable civil society organizations and other stakeholders participate in the budget process.
And Aminu Mudibo tweets, I don't know what the legislature are waiting for. I didn't see any reason for extending the time.
And then we have this from Victor Ohiosuomwa tweets. It says, we must return to the January to December financial year for proper budgeting. It's unpatriotic for the National Assembly to take 5 months to pass it.
And finally, Alagbala Taiwo tweets, I don't think the National Assembly understand why they are in NAS. If they can't pass the budget by this time, or should they should give them 1 more year, or should they be given 1 more year? Well, this again, Kingsley is speaking to the number of...
holidays that they proceed on. But what should we expect now from the National Assembly? One other point that just before you indicate that, yes, we knew that there were some processes, internal processes going on. Normally, you will have the House work on the House... will work on its own, the Senate will work on its own, then you have a harmonization, assuming there's disagreement, and then there's a joint presentation. When do we expect all of these processes to play out? What has happened? Has the House finalized its own work? And do you have any information whether the Senate has also finalized its own work, rather than relying on, yes, of course, we discussed that on the program, when the police raided the home of Senator Danjuma Goje. Those documents have long since been returned, unless they were tampered with.
Well, I've listened to the comments. But just like we have said, we are all Nigerians, we also feel the pain. It's not, as a member of the House of Representatives, it's not expected that I should be coming to defend that we have not passed the budget after 5 months. But all that goes under it, well, have been completed now. The harmonization process has been completed. I want to assure Nigerians that in the next few days, the budget will be passed by National Assembly.
Is this going to be I'm sorry, I mean, I ask this question advisedly. Is this going to be a perfunctory process? Just because Nigerians are putting pressure on you now and asking questions, why it's not be passed? So, okay, let's pass it.
Long time ago, the process had been completed, yes, at both chambers. The harmonization process took a while to complete. All the processes have been completed, and hopefully in the coming days, it will be passed by the Nigerian Assembly.
All right, Senator Sumbo, how can we get it right? How can we... What needs to be done, urgently to have a timely budget?
Well, first of all, on the optimism expressed by the honourable member, we should also bear in mind that
that is not the budget.
It's not the Appropriation Act. It needs to be assented to by Mr. President, and let's hope that they do not find any serious reason at that point to return it, so that we don't have the scenario of 2016 budget being repeated. But it would be a relief if the budget is passed as speedily as you expressed. As to what should be done, well, every stage of this exercise needs to be improved upon, starting with when the budget estimate is presented to the National Assembly. When I was in the Senate, we did actually pass a resolution that the budget must be presented not later than October. I know that the Honorable Minister of Budget and Planning, himself, Senator Dodoma, who was himself chairman of the Senate Committee on Appropriation, has expressed a desire, his own desire, that the budget should be presented as early as September. But everything does not lie within his powers alone. As you said, it will, it depends on the MDAs being able to make their own submissions together, the budget office being able to tidy up the whole thing before Mr. President can present the budget to the National Assembly. So let's hope that that process can be speeded up, and probably by September, not later than September, the budget estimate is presented. Then we talked about the role of the legislature itself, the National Assembly. Of course, well, they may say that there's no muzzle flexing. But in the eyes of most Nigerians, there has been some element of muzzle flexing, and the legislature wanting everybody to know that they exist, and this is the power which they must exercise. That is without doubt now, and I want to see a situation where there is more attention, more speed introduced into the consideration of the budget, because the nation is is very anxious when the budget is delayed, as we can see. And I want to urge members of the National Assembly to also, I know many of them have this in mind, they understand this, but to try to speed up the process. Because we are learning. This thing, democracy has been on now for so many years, even though I realize that because of the high turnover rate of members of the National Assembly, you find that each new National Assembly has more or less new people who are not accustomed to this process. But I want to see that being speeded up. And consultations can be very helpful. While this is going on, consultation between the leadership of the National Assembly and members of the executive, the presidency. Once they are able to meet and consult, then areas of serious disagreements can be minimized.
That's right. That's a very important point Senator Osumbo has raised, of course, in addition to the very useful contributions that you've made to this conversation. Ordinarily, I mean, there are two knotty points that will arise, quite aside from the pardon issue that came up last year. You also were always concerned about the pegging of the exchange rate, the rate of the naira, as well as the benchmark rate for sale of crude oil, which is a critical source. We haven't heard much of that in recent times, so that's why Nigerians have indeed been concerned as to what has caused this extensive delay. We still have reactions from our viewers, and then we are taking those reactions now. Cecilia Okoroma tweets, "Leadership is about sacrifice. Why didn't the lawmakers let go their comfort, sacrifice their all for the quick passage of the budget?"
All right, and Chris Simeon tweets, "Failure of the National Assembly to pass 2017 appropriation is quite disturbing. Let's be patient. In every dark cloud, there must be the usual silver lining."
All right, and then we have this from Ruka Eleinju again. Ruka Eleinju again. What is all this grammar for? Budget has been submitted to the National Assembly since December. Why the delay? Why not get down to work immediately?
All right, and Eze Chukube tweets, "What the resource person said about early passage of budget may not be feasible because our economy is dependent on dollar."
And then Festus Akimboyewa tweets, says government should promote openness in the budget-making process so that Nigeria can have a budget that's fit for purpose.
And I said this one, I left this one. I wish every day is Friday because I love Kingsley and Claire's outfit. Keep it up, my beautiful anchors. Thank you, Mohammed Usman.
All right, well, thank you very much for your tweets, and that's the much we can take for this discussion segment. We'd like to thank Honorable Bode Ayorinde, member of the House of Reps, is also the chairman of the House Committee on Recession and deputy chair of his Rules and Business Committee. Honorable Ayorinde, thank you for your contribution.
Thank you very much, sir.
All right. We also would like to appreciate Senator Sereme Osumbo, former governor of Edo State, two-term senator, professor of law, and former chair of the Nigerian Law Reform Commission. Thank you for your insights.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure.
All right, we'll take a short break now. When we return, we'll be dealing with the ongoing voter registration exercise.
Olachi, come and receive your punishment.
I'm sorry, ma.
Olachi, come on.
I am something. You mostly depend on me for the smooth running of the domestic activities of your family.
Make sure you prepare food. That rug in the visitors' room.
Yes, ma.
Wash it thoroughly because that thing has been smelling.
I am a helper in your family and business. Many times you thank me with a slap.
I said it.
House help, gateman, sales girl, PA, and so on. This week, Professor John Bull takes a deep look at issues of assistance in life jackets. It is funny.
I doesn't want that.
This man, they look forward to give belly.
It is deep.
Showing at 8:30 p.m. every Tuesday and Friday on NTA Network International and Star Times.
Over and out.
Brought to you by Glow.
Welcome to the new speed of life.
TV Guide magazine is out with fabulous Fab Funke Akindele Bello, aka Jennifer, adorning the cover. She opens a secret not known even to her family. Find out the secret. NTA turns 40 this year. The challenges, the emerging trends in broadcasting, and the way forward. Weekend Dealer 2. Meet the team behind the biggest deal on NTA. Is food still the way to a man's heart? If not, what else? This edition is hot and juicy. Meet your star faces on screen. Entertainment, fashion, young minds, social media, and great personality.
This is idiosyncratic and heterodox.
Yes, Professor John Bull is on the radar. Find out what makes this program the rave of the moment on NTA Network, and for the prof,
over and out.
TV Guide. Ask your vendors or book your copy at every NTA station nationwide. TV Guide, still your indispensable companion.
Admission forms for the 2017-2018 academic session of NTA Television College JAWS into its diploma programs are now on sale. The diploma programs are in film and TV production, broadcast journalism, and TV engineering technology. Applicants are required to have at least 5 credits, including English language and mathematics at SSC, NECO, or GCO levels in not more than 1 sitting. Application forms can be obtained from the TV College Refi JAWS or at any NTA zonal centers nationwide on payment of a no-refundable fee of 7,500 naira in bank draft in favor of NTA Television College. Completed application forms should be returned to the Office of the Academic Secretary, NTA Television College, or the Center of Purchase on or before 28th of July 2017. For further inquiries, please call 0806 980 9807 or 0703 660 7155. NTA Television College, training you to be the best you can be.
All right, you're welcome back, but if you just joined us, it's Good Morning Nigeria, and we're live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. Now, ahead of the next general elections taking place in 2019, the Independent National Electoral Commission has commenced the continuous voter registration exercise. Our correspondent, Timothy Yusuf, tells us more before we get into the conversation segment.
Section 10, subsection 1 of the Electoral Act 2010 as amended empowers the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, to embark on continuous voter registration. It is in line with this that the Commission embarked on the continuous voter registration on the 27th of April 2017. The exercise is designed to update the voter register with the capturing of citizens who turned 18 after the last voter registration exercise and those who couldn't register in the previous exercises. Apart from the registration of eligible voters, uncollected permanent voter cards will be distributed to the electorate, while issues relating to transfer or registered voters lost or omitted PVCs will be addressed. The Commission has also concluded arrangements to cater for internally displaced persons, IDPs, some of whom might have even lost their voter cards as a result of forced dislocation. Reports from the states in the Federation indicate that the exercise is going on smoothly, but with low turnout of eligible voters. Supervising the exercise in some states of the Federation, INEC has enjoined political parties to sensitize their members on the need to turn out for the exercise. While promising a hitch-free exercise, the Commission advises those who are already registered not to do so again, as it is an offense to register more than once.
All right, we have joined us here in the studio Oluwole Osaze Uze, who is Director, Voter Education and Publicity of INEC. We'd like to thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Good morning.
And we also have with us a public affairs analyst, a friend of the house, Judy Ojo. Mr. Ojo, thank you very much for joining us.
It's a pleasure. Good morning, Nigerians.
Okay. Let me start with you, because you're closest to the people. The continuous voters registration exercise commenced 27th of April. Between then and now, can you feel it?
Yeah, I can feel it. I mean, we all have a duty to support INEC to succeed. And this is all about our democracy. You cannot have a successful election without a good national register of voters. this is where it all begins. And I think Nigerians should seize the opportunity, seize the momentum to make sure that they do one of the three things that are going on right now. Because not only is the continuous voter registration going on, they can also transfer their voting details if they have moved locations. Maybe some of them registered at their place of work, they are no longer there, they've moved houses, they've moved to a new environment, they can transfer their voting details. And thirdly, for those who have registered, there are 7.8 of them, 7.8 million registered voters from 2011 and other subsequent continuous voter registration exercises that have been held in between. 7.8 million registered voters who are yet to collect their permanent voters card.
You know why I asked that question? Our correspondent who did the background report went to town, of course, and he says very low turnout. And I'm saying,
but that is also relative. In some places, I have also read reports where they said there are massive turnouts, but inadequate machines to register people and all of that. In our own bit, my column in the Punch on Wednesday was devoted to this continuous vote, why you should register to vote. It's part of duty we owe this country to make sure that the consciousness, the sensitization is sustained. Because now we know it's about 2 years to the election. A lot of Nigerians, and this is where I'm coming to the issue of, even if, let's concede without admitting that there's low voter low turnout of registrants. You know, Nigerians, we always want to do things at the last minute. Is it not 2019 we are going to use the card? Let's take it easy. I can't go, and the local government is too far from me. I can't travel because I want to register. People don't know.
And expecting a shift too.
Exactly. Of course, when the time comes now, they will now ask INEC to shift it at least by 2 weeks so that they can. So it's in our nature, it's in our character that we always approach things fire brigade. And it's not good, it's not a good work culture, it's not a good ethics for us to wait till the last minute to do things.
All right, Joe, thank you very much. Let's come to Osaze-Ozie. What will be the last minute now for registration? before we start contemplating whether there will be a shift and by how many days?
We've only just started, barely a week after we've started. In fact, when you discountenance the weekends and the public holidays, when we don't work, we've only had about 4 days, 5 days of actual registration. So we've only just started. We're not talking of when it will end yet. But there are statutory limits within which we cannot go beyond. So issues of shifts cannot arise presently.
No. Yeah, what is the time delimited for the current exercise? I mean, is it going to roll on until the 2019 elections, or and then where is the go-to place for registration? I'm asking this question advisedly, and I'll let you know why I'm asking that.
Well, let me take your latter question. The go-to place is the INEC office in the local governments. INEC has offices in all local governments of the Federation. So for now, that is where the registration is taking place. But it's open daily, except weekends and public holidays. It's open daily and between the hours of 9 a.m. and 3 p.m. For now, we're not contemplating when the cutoff date will be, but we know that by law, as the law stands now, we cannot do anything about registration, whether it's cleaning up of a register, whether it's registration, and we can do any of the transfers 60 days, 2 months to the elections, 20 election.
All right. Then the other question, I'm sure that you're familiar with this. When you have had registration exercises in the past, persons would normally take the convenience of going to register at a point nearest to their place of work. And then on the day of election, when there is a lockdown, there is no movement, the person lives more than 20 kilometers away from his workplace or some such distance, and he cannot commute to the location where he was registered. Now, is that problem obviated in this current continuous voter registration exercise if you were to go to a local government headquarters?
Well, certainly, but you should go to the local government where you reside, not where you work, because except you intend to vote nearer to your place of work. But we prefer a place of residence, a place where you're likely to be, where you wish to vote. When you go to the local government office of the commission to register, you'll be asked your address, and you'll be asked which is the nearest polling unit you wish to go to. And in that case, you'll be allotted that polling unit, and that is where you are going to vote. So in that sense, it's one local government, but you choose the particular locality where you rather prefer to be registered, where you prefer to vote.
Okay, I understand that this is also a window for the commission to, probably delete the names of those who have passed on and all that. And I'm interested how you're able to do that. How is the Commission going to do that?
Well, at any time, the register is organic, and that being the case, you always clean up that register as best as you can. So, for example, dead people cannot vote. Dead people ought not to be in the register, so you should prune them out or take them out of that register. If a person comes now, if I have lost my father, so I can come and say, look, I've lost my father, and tell them this, and if necessary, show evidence of that, because we don't want a situation where somebody who has a potential opponent will come and say, that man or that lady's name on that register shouldn't be there because the person is dead. But if you see somebody whose name ought not to be in the register because the person is dead, because the person is not a Nigerian, there's a form you fill to later protest. So that we look at it and we investigate that, and if you're correct, if it's a question of death, you state your relationship with the person, and you should be in a position to know the actual state of affairs. Then if we're satisfied with that, then we'll note that in the register.
So the Commission will have to rely on the, let me use the word, for want of word, magnanimity of the person who is coming to provide you the information that so person is gone.
Well,
is that the way it is?
The honesty of the person, not really magnanimity. I would use a different word. But you may be required to produce evidence of your assertion. So, for example, if it's a close relation of yours, your father, your spouse, or it is dead, if you show us the death certificate, we'll probably take a copy of it, note it, and then that's the needful will be done, yes.
What credentials do you need for registration?
Generally, you don't need any specific credentials, but you have to be a Nigerian citizen, you have to be 18 years and above. Those are the two basic requirements. And if the registration officer is not satisfied that you're a Nigerian citizen, maybe you have a complexion that is different from mine, they might require you to prove citizenship. That may be production of maybe your driver's license or your international Nigerian passport, or we have most states and local governments now issue certificates of origin to ascertain that you're actually from a particular local government or a particular state, and those usually have your photographs embossed in such certificates. If he may require you, if you don't, in his own opinion, appear to be a Nigerian. If you're a borderline case, is also not sure of your age, he may require you to produce a baptismal, birth certificate, affidavit, or some evidence to show that you're 18 years or above.
All right, let's also look at another issue that may arise, and that's the fact that the registration of new voters and malfunctioning of your direct data capture. These are some of the challenges that INEC might also hope to address, isn't it?
Yes, potentially anything of technology has its own potential challenges, and more especially that a lot of machines we're using have been there for quite a while. But I have read the initial reports from independent observers. Of course, I've seen privileged to see some reports of monitors on the field as well. That is not really a serious challenge now. They're a bit slow, quite honestly. Some reports say sometimes they're slower than we would have wanted. You can get more efficient machines for whatever reasons, but that we're looking into. But for example, two of the CSO reports we've read, more than 98% of people are quite satisfied and functioning optimally. But those other challenges have been looked into, yes.
All right, Usazozo, thank you very much. Jide, once again, let's bring you in. We are doing all of this now ahead of the 2019 elections, general elections. Of course, there will be other elections along the way, governorship or by-elections and so on and so forth. One nuisance that we always find in the course of our elections, underage voters. So if we are having this diligent process of registration and you're cleaning up the register, how can we now, at this early stage, deal with the incidents of persons who are not supposed to be in possession of a voter's card, a PVC, coming up on the queue to pretend to cast their votes or to pretend to vote for a candidate? In other words, how do we avoid, voter card trading as we find in our politics?
Thank you very much. The thing is there, the culture is there, especially by politicians to take advantage of the system. Remember, now that PVCs have monetary value as far as they are concerned, a lot of people underage are being mobilized. Many, particularly in rural communities, to go and register to vote. And it's very difficult to prove. some people will say, is it because I'm short that you think I'm not 18 years? Is it, you know, even, and whatever criteria INEC or the electoral law may have put in place can be easily circumvented, because where you have politicians, very desperate politicians, wanting to stockpile, you know, PVCs ahead of, now that even INEC already has given us the date for elections. So everybody is like having their eyes on the ball. What can I do to stand at an advantage in winning an election? And I recall that on April 27th, when the INEC chairman in Karo was flagging up this exercise, he actually solicited the support of the general public that if you do know of anyone who is underage that is on queue to register, blow your whistle. Go and blow whistle and make sure that that kind of person is pulled off the line. That is number one challenge that this CVR may likely face. The other challenge is multiple registration. Even people who are 18 years and above, some will say, oh, I was in Kara Namuda doing my youth service when I registered. I can't travel there to collect my PVC. Let me do another one now that I'm in Ipoboka, in Edo, so that, I mean, why should I travel down? Because I've had that question. In fact, somebody called me and said, oh, I registered when I was doing my youth service, but now I can't because of PVC go back to that far-flung place because I want to collect my PVC. So he would rather, or she would rather register again where he or she is now resident. And that is against the law. That's multiple registration, which is not permitted. Because that's why the database has to be, they have to run AFIX, automatic fingerprint identification system, to weed out these multiple registrants from time to time. And that's costing the nation a lot of resources. So people should try and behave themselves. Underage, multiple registrations are all criminal offenses under Nigerian law and should be avoided.
Let me ask Mr. Osaize, is it necessarily the fact that wherever you register right now, during voting period, that's where you're going to vote?
Yes, that is the law. The law says you vote in the polling unit where you registered, the area where you registered, or the polling unit you are allotted to by the commission. So now that we are not registering polling units, we are registering in the local government offices of the commission. You choose where you want to vote. But the law says you cannot go elsewhere except you transfer your registration. That is the present situation of the law.
What on the average, I mean, assuming on the average, whether your machines are malfunctioning or otherwise, how long does it take to process a potential registrant?
Generally a couple of minutes, but for now, for example, there are five desk officers you get to meet. First person who welcomes you, directs you as appropriate. There's somebody who's checking whether you've registered before. There's somebody who's checking to distribute for your PVC if you have registered before. There's somebody else who's responsible for transfers and for misplaced cards, because at the same time we're also dealing with those who wish to transfer their registration points or voting points, and also voting polling units, and also those who have, for whatever reason, damaged their cards or lost their cards. So there are several desks that you have to go to and direct you to the appropriate one.
Do you pick up your PVC immediately upon registration, or you have a time lag? You're asked to come back?
Good question. You will be given a temporary voter's card, just like your driver's license as well, because that data you have given to us will still have to be processed. That's the reason why we don't give you your permanent voter's card immediately. We still have to go to the database and cross-check to see whether you have registered before, and to match it with the fingerprints of those who are previously registered. If you try to beat the system and you registered before, then we'll catch up with you and likely to be prosecuted. So you come back about 3 months, a couple of months later. So if you registered now, you're going to come up much later to ascertain whether your card is ready. If we run the AFIS and say that everything is okay, then the permanent voter card will be printed and you can pick it up much later.
Now, Mr. Uzi, now if, for instance, I live in Mpam. Mpam is a community in, Ayazumbise, in a local government area, and I have to go to Ayazumbise local government, which is quite a long distance, from my community. Yes. Now, don't you think because of the distance, that might prevent me from, going to register, and I don't know, because I might not have the funds, the money to, transport myself to the local government. So, making the local government headquarters the area of registration, how do you see that?
It's a practical solution for now, yes. Because, look, for now we're using only INEC staff whose job it is to register. So they're not being paid extra, they are within the normal overheads of the commission. If we were to go and use lower levels and go to as many communities as is feasible, then there are lots of issues that are thrown up. One, you'll need a lot more machines. Two, you have to purchase those machines. You need toners, you need consumables. You also need to incorporate a lot more staff, and INEC does not have enough staff. The total staff strength of the commission is just over 16,000, inclusive of chairman, drivers, security, everybody. So now, if we were to go to all the wards, there are over 8,800 wards in this country. For let's say, let's take it to every ward. If we have to have full complement of 5 staff, that will be 45,000 people.
Okay,
so,
let me pause you.
Yes.
Should that be a concern to INEC?
It should be, because we haven't even had the 2017 budget passed. We just pretend. So I don't know where the commission is even getting money to do all of this. And it has to work. And that's the fear I've flagged in my earlier commentary in the Punch, that how do we fund 2019 elections? There's only one budget cycle after this, which is 2018. Because 2017 is the one that is about to be passed. So we have only 2018. And election is coming up in February 2019. If we maintain this same trend of passing budget in May, then you will see that 2019 budget will not have
the budget has not been passed yet. So this is the 5th of May. May still has 26 days to go.
The commission is only doing all it could within the limit of the resources available to it.
All right, sorry, Mr. Jide. Just one point, before we take our tweets. Osaze, one point that I would like you to address, because we have had this in the past, that persons, who are not authorized normally will take the data capturing machines to their locality or to their palace or to whatever to go and be registering persons. What happens in this case if there were to be any such reports?
Well, they certainly will be arrested if they're found out and prosecuted. But there are checks and balances within it. First of all, we're only using 774 machines on ground now. Of course, there are some spares in case there's any challenge with them.
All right, thanks a lot. Let's take reactions from our viewers. Ifeanyi Chukwu Nwosu, and it is very unusual what we have used before, while so much trimming of registration centers here in the East.
Okay, let me also take this tweet from Dele Jack Solomon. Is that what you have?
Yes, I have Dele Jack Solomon here as well.
Okay, and he tweets, why can't INEC elongate working days of the week in the local government from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m.? Another way of making the exercise fruitless?
And then Jack Solomon again continues, the INEC chairman, Professor Yakubu, should tell us how he would ascertain dead persons on the voters register and eliminate them. So you already spoke about that. And then Runke Linju again, I would like to plead with INEC to bring it to the ward level. Right now, registration takes place at the local government.
All right, let me quickly. Sani Michael Omakoji. If INEC must get desired result from this exercise that has gulped millions of naira, the exercise should be at all the polling units.
Okay, well, those are the tweets that we are having from our viewers on this topic. Gentlemen, we'd like to thank you for being with us. Oluwole Osaze, Director of Voter Education and Publicity, INEC. Thanks for being here, Alois.
Thank you for having me.
For your insights. And then Mr. Jide Ojo, Public Affairs Analyst, thanks a lot for being part of the program.
Thanks for the honor. It's a pleasure.
All right, and time for us now to move forward, and it's sports.
Good morning. Thanks for joining us on Sports Segment. My name is Salu Abdullahi. MFM FC attacking pair of Stephen Ode and Sikiru Olatunbosun have been handed call-ups